Okay. Okay, I have KMCD news now. There's Farrell. Mike Brown. All right. Looks like I've been able to get everybody on that needs to be on so far. I have Mike Brown, I have Emily Kelly, Delva Reese, KMCD News, Brett Farrell. I've added also Yoga U online as well. So, all right, well, we'll continue with the meeting. We've already acknowledged the minutes from the 2 previous meetings that we had last week. We have met with the first part of the county engineer. We've also discussed and considered tuck pointing extra work order. Now we're getting ready to consider approval for project agreement for the project number BRS SWAP CO51 parent 72 FF-51 for HBP SWAP funding for bridge and over Cedar Creek. Let's see. Okay, and there's Marg. Okay, over Cedar Creek on Libertyville Road. So let's look at that first resolution together. Okay. Mm-hmm.
We have these all the time and handle those motions.
Okay. So I would take a motion to approve the project amendment for the project numbers that we listed.
Second.
I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist to approve the agreements. All those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Right. So we'll move on to the 2 resolutions that we have. Consider a resolution to approve consulting engineer contract for design services for bridge number 2002-50 over Cedar Creek on Stockport Road. Be it resolved that the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to approve consulting engineer contract with Calhoun and Burns Associates Incorporated for preliminary design services on bridge FHWA number 200250 over Cedar Creek on Stockport Road in section 36, Township 71 North, range 9 West, Cedar Township in Jefferson County, Iowa.
Bridge is the one that we turned in the bill application for. It's on the Stockport Road. It's 20-foot space in between the rails, so there's lots of tire marks and gouges and scrapes and things on the guardrail that's on the sides of the bridge. So that was turned in, and it really should be under design in order to proceed with it.
So how much is a contract?
On the second page, survey, on road plans, and that's 390. Preliminary design would be 6,160. Preliminary detailing, $5,580. Then coordination and submittals for that to the DOT and to the county would be estimated to total $2,400. And then lump sum for the wetlands, endangered species investigation permit, and nationwide permit would be $150. Testing for asbestos would be $570. And in all cases, when we do these contracts, we do a preliminary design contract, and then unless the DOT will allow us to proceed with the final till they're satisfied with the status. And that'll be the case on the next one as well.
Total cost on that. I know you itemized everything for us, but
What's the total?
the total comes up to what?
All those numbers added together.
Yeah, well,
But you have it then.
oh, and you don't have it done.
It's over 30,000.
It's over 30,000.
And can you just clarify for everybody, we contract this because it's the DOT is involved, right?
Well, this is contracting the design of a bridge, and I think there's been someone go to insurance like ICAP show up and say, all counties are having a design consultant design your bridges for liability purposes. We have a smaller staff
Right.
due to that. I mean, counties I worked in the 70s had, I was one that I was hired just to design things, and at Madison County, and then Marshall County, I mean, they had much larger staffs, several design technicians, the county engineer, a couple of assistants, and I used standard plans to more or less design the bridge, and just all we did was, we had to determine how deep the piling needed to go and what the profile of the road was, things like that. But it still was quite a process.
Right, and this is all in your budget.
Yes.
Okay. I'll make
It's
a,
on that 20%, like you said, it's part of the deal.
Don't know what the cost there would be. I mean, it's probably presented as 75%, but that the design's not
Right.
in the grant.
This bridge, are we doing this because of that build grant, or was that already in our construction plans?
It's not already in the budget. I mean, we just recently started talking about that. I mean, September 21st, when Panasonic was here from Calendar Associates, it kind of popped up on the radar, and it's got some, I mean, it is the narrowest bridge we have on a paved road now. So the fact that if the build thing had come in next year, well, it'd already be on the program. But since it isn't, we might not get a build grant till next year, but it is on the program. And if they do select it anyway, we'll have amendment to get that.
The only reason I asked Scott was an outside chance that we already had budgeted for that bridge, and that would free up some money to go do another bridge or something. That's the only reason I asked.
Right. Well, if you're gonna keep doing these grants and come out with more originally than they have, the DOT only allows you to program a certain number of bridges, and we were maxed out. So if we amend this, the DOT would have to say, well, you can add a bridge because you get the grant for it. Anyway, yeah, it's not in the program now, but
Okay.
it will be.
Mhm.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution with a contract with Calhoun and Associates for preliminary design on Bridge 200-250 over Cedar Creek on Stockport Road.
All right, I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Dimmitt to approve the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to consider resolution to approve consulting engineer contract for design services for bridge number 201450 over Mitchell Creek on Iris Avenue. The resolution is as follows: be it resolved by the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to approve consulting engineer contract with Calhoun and Burns Associates Incorporated for preliminary design services on bridge FHWA number 201450 over Mitchell Creek on Iris Avenue in section 16, Township 72 North, Range 10 West, Center Township in Jefferson County, Iowa. I assume that this is the same type of agreement that we just passed a resolution previous to this with, and it's the same type of design services from Calhoun and Burns as we just discussed. So do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
What's the amount on this one?
I'll over there. $29,910.
Excuse me, what was the number again?
$29,910.
$29,910 for this contract, and it is part of what you had budgeted for this type of work this year. Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay, I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Dimmitt to approve this resolution. All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
I just have a quick question. You mentioned when we did the first one, and I'm sure it applies to this. Is there any concern that they would discover any asbestos or anything? And what would be the contingency? I mean, obviously we got to move forward, and I'm not, I'm all for the resolution, but
It applies to all the bridges. We have to test and we have to notify that we're dismantling the bridge. Let's see. The one on Stockport Road, I don't see any chance at all that there'd be any asbestos. But then the one on Iris, that has timber piling and things like that. And sometimes they cap them with some tar-like substance that has asbestos in it. They stuck asbestos in just about
Everything, yeah.
There's no real reason to have it, but it's If they test it, don't find any, well, then there's, the contractor just doesn't have to be wary of it. And if there is some, it's usually just a minor amount that they need to dispose of properly. It really doesn't enter much into the cost at all.
No, the first contract, you read through what each item was, and in that there was asbestos, and I believe they referred to it as $500 and some, but that's just investigation to find out if there is asbestos. That doesn't include what the mitigation for it or removal by the contractor would be at the time of the construction.
That's what it was.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, on the contract plans.
Okay, I just curious.
I think it's coming out in small quantities on several of the bridges that get taken out.
We have a motion and a
We
second.
have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we've already discussed the tuck pointing extra work order, which was for a total of $14,738.50. This included some extra stone patching, extra stone consolidation area, stone patch on the south elevation, stone patch on the west elevation, brick replacement that was done on the chimney. And then scope of work that's going to be looked at. Also along with that is remove the loose and crumbling brick faces, perform minor tuck pointing to the brick joints, apply one application of Pro Soco H40 water repellent and consolidation to the brick. And that cost for that item was $4,244 for a total of $14,738.50. Previously, we had discussed it before I had gotten it straightened out and back with everybody for our full meeting. We have that recorded as well. So that we'll move on then to make committee reports. Do you have any committees this week, Mr. Demick?
I can go if you want.
I just looked to see what the date was. Well, actually, I did have a couple meetings over in Tumble regarding 1015, but I'll do that. Well, I guess I can do it now. We, if you remember, we talked about buying the old railroad depot. In our estimation, it was way overpriced, and so we said, sorry. They purchased it for $35,000. It was asking $2.5. And so,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. And so then, if you remember, I believe I told you that we looked at the Market on Main building. We bought the bread dough building, and we've already done that. Market on Main was across the street. School district was interested as well. And after some discussion, we decided, we had a conversation with Legacy Foundation. We decided not to submit a bid on the building, in part because the school district wanted it, and we didn't want to cause the school district any problems. They had a project in mind for it, and we thought that it was probably better suited for the school district than it would be for us anyway. And it was a PR move, let's be honest. I mean, we didn't want to create problems for the school. So it came to our attention that People's State Bank, which was bought out by South Atomo Savings Bank. It's a bank that's right on the curb, right across the street from the depot. We submitted an offer on that building. We met with the folks that were in charge of it. It's actually move-in ready. It's a much better opportunity if they accept our offer. So our plan is, first off, our buses can park there. We want to invite Trailways and Greyhound to come back. We would do that if we got the depot building. They're parking downtown in the middle of the street blocking traffic. So we were gonna ask them if they wanted to come back. The folks that were riding their buses could wait inside along with our folks. We would go across the street and ask Amtrak. We would provide them an office there free of charge. They wouldn't have to pay rent. They're paying just under $2,000 a month now. We would shuttle people across the street to the train for those that are riding the train at no charge to Amtrak. We would still continue the downtown shuttle. That would be from Red Dome. We'd hit all the little businesses around and then drop folks off at the bank building, which would be our administrative office, our dispatcher, and they would be there. And then they can ride the buses, fixed route buses, go wherever they needed to go. The South Dakota Savings Bank was asking $500,000. We offered the $500,000. They wanted to know if they could leave the ATM there. We said absolutely. And if you want to put one in the lobby, that's fine. We want to, partner with you in that regard. We think the ATM would be a benefit. So the long and the short of it is, they had one other party that might be interested in the building. We're hoping to hear this week whether or not they accept their offer. Also, especially for the news media, if the news media is still on, I would like for the news media to let the general public know we've had lots of very positive comments about the ambulances and the look of the ambulances. I want the folks to know that they own those rigs, that the taxpayers purchased those rigs. They do not belong to CARE. They belong to the residents of Jefferson County through JCASA, which is the Jefferson County Ambulance Service Agency. I think that's important for them to know that when they're looking at that they own those ambulances. So if the news media would get that out, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Dee.
Yeah, I had quite a few meetings last week. Early Childhood Iowa, we're continuing our weekly board training. So last week we learned about the Parents as Teachers program. And then somebody from DHS was there and explained it, how the funding and the programs work. I had a CVB meeting, safety committee, and we're making progress there. Most likely, Pat is going to look at prioritizing our training, and then we're gonna have a department head meeting. So I will get that scheduled as soon as I hear from him, so we can get some training going. I did happen to see Scott Vaughn and talk to him about doing fire training, and he said just whenever we want to do it, let him know. And then Chris and I are working on an agreement with the JCHC clinic to update that, which is needed. And my big news is I completed the FEMA training, Brett, NIMS 100 and 700. And then we have Pathfinders. And so we've hired a part-time Historic Hills Scenic Byway coordinator. And there's 5 current abandoned mine reclamation sites in process. And their Pathfinders has some COVID-19 relief funds in Davis and Jefferson County. And in Davis County, it's served 25 families, and in Jefferson County, we've served 18 families. And then Workforce Development has contracted with Pathfinders to do the fiscal agent. And then did some work on, I'm sure we'll hear more about in public comments on some election questions, so we'll say that. We'll get it on the agenda next week. I know the county attorney's office is working on that.
Okay, I had one meeting last week that I was unable to attend. I had a doctor's appointment that day. It was the decategorization meeting that takes place on the first Tuesday of every month. The meeting itself was changed a little bit in its format because the director of that Tammy Kesterson had lost a family member and was having funeral arrangements and everything going on that day, so she wasn't present, but they had a presentation from one of the providers that we have for services that are received through BCAT. So other than that, I don't have anything to really report on, other than Thursday we had a meeting with our architect who oversees the plan specifications and inspections for the courthouse. Our tuck pointing project is nearing its final stages. We're looking to hopefully be completed before the 1st of November. We have the new ring faces to put on the clock itself on the tower out here. We're waiting on delivery of a piece of equipment today that will reach from the ground all the way up there for them to be able to accomplish that work. We have just a limited amount of joint filling that still needs to be done. They've gotten all the joints and bricks replaced that need to be replaced, and they've done patching around the window wells on the west side of the building. They were deteriorated pretty badly because of the water being held in by the size of the plants that are on that side of the building, and some regrading that will need to be done when we do our landscaping project after the project is completed this year. We had to remove some plants on the west side so that the contractor could have better access. Plus, it will give us better access for sloping the ground away from the building, where in some places it slopes towards the building and allows the water to seep through into the basement. And we want to eliminate that problem when we're completely done with the tuck pointing. So that's where we stand with all of that at this point. We'll move on to public comments. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to make a comment? Mark, Dwyer.
Yeah, hi. Thank you. I'm pleased to hear that you're going to talk about election safety next week. I'm a little concerned that it's not until next week, because I understand about 3,600 people have already voted. And I would guess that that number will be the same again this week or next week. And that's a little bit of concern to me. I was pleased to hear that the Secretary of State has authorized money for each county to install whatever kind of safety equipment they need for voting safety. And I just wanted to express my concern that I'm worried about waiting a whole nother week. That concerns me.
Okay, Emily?
Yeah, I agree. I'm extremely concerned that we are not following safety procedures at these elections. I had a family member go and was appalled to see that when he walked in, that there were people in line that didn't have masks next to people that did have masks. There were the woman who was at the table taking licenses to give out ballots, didn't have a mask on. The auditor's office didn't have a mask on. I just am aghast that these simple procedures are not taking, we're not implementing them in a building that it's an enclosed space. We're having a lot of people go in there, and someone left. My family member said the person that was with him left because she didn't want to be exposed. And that is not a good situation. I just think this is something that has to be taken care of immediately. We have everybody's, requires masks. Walmart requires masks. The schools require masks. Why can't we do this? It's very concerning to a lot of people.
Okay, Eva, you had a comment?
Yeah, along the same lines, I was happy to see that the Secretary of State had allotted $5,000 per county for masks and other things to keep voters safe during voting. And I just wonder about the practicalities, if it's possible to, first of all, you know, is that money the Board of Supervisors controlling that money, or is it the City Council? And also, what would be the practicalities of getting masks there that people would be encouraged to put on, and also making sure that the person who is actually, you know, registering people is, you know, having masks on. So what would be the actual practicalities there?
Okay. Devalia? Sorry.
Yeah.
Devalia.
Same thing again. I joined in to just weigh in on the issue of masks in general, pandemic safety for early voting. I've heard the same concerns that Emily talked about, of masks not being required, or at least not enforced at early voting in the courthouse. And that seems like it's already a concern for people, and surely it's just going to get worse as more and more people vote, and as we get closer to election day. It seems like something that shouldn't be that hard just to require. I don't know what the protocol would be to get that in place and enforced, but I wanted to weigh in on that.
Okay. We have Marg, you have your hand up again. Yes, Marg Dwyer. You're muted, Marg.
Sorry, I understand there may be some reluctance to require masks, to mandate masks. I'm of two minds on that. On one, I don't see why we can't, since places of business seem to be able to do that. But second, even if we don't want to mandate masks, I'd like to see us strongly require masks, and maybe find a way to separate the people who want to do masks from the people who don't want to do masks, so that they can feel safe. And perhaps we could have plexiglass screen in front of the people who are doing the paperwork, and a plexiglass screen in the auditor's office between the people who are coming into the office and the people who are working in the office, and maybe a plexiglass screen between the people who are masked and the people who aren't masked, just so that everybody could feel comfortable and not coerced in any way or another.
Okay,
I gather that Jefferson County, our numbers are still going up, so I think we have to be careful and not be too complacent about it. Thank you.
we have Chris Estel with us as well. Do you have any comments on this, Chris?
Hey, good morning. Sorry, it's been a little hectic this morning. So I just joined, and I'm assuming that you guys are all discussing appropriate PPE during voting and wearing masks. Am I correct? Since I just hopped on. Okay.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Chris Estel. I'm the public health administrator. So yeah, this is something that we experienced during the primary election as well, where, you know, we understood that we could not have any infringements to people's rights when they are voting. This is something that we've discussed numerous times, and I actually just had conversation with my regional epidemiologist right before I jumped on this call, and asked if there was any specific guidance related to voting. There is not. I mean, it goes back to what we've been saying since the beginning with those mitigation strategies. I know that we are working to try to come up with something, but you know, when the governor says that she trusts Iowans to do the right thing, and we've listened to her since March or January, and we've been dealing with this since January locally, it gets really difficult. And I'm not in a position to, I can't mandate it. I can't go, you know, it's an electoral process. We cannot infringe on anyone's rights. The only thing that we can do is offer guidance, suggestions, recommendations. I understand where everybody's at. Believe me, I've been living this nightmare for months, and it's not going to get any better. I will say this, we had 8 cases this morning, 9 actually. So we have been inundated. I know there were several large gatherings this weekend. Lots of people got married and had wedding receptions this weekend. So Fast forward a couple weeks and you're going to see those numbers increase again. So I don't know. I'm at a loss because, I mean, I'm not going to try to say something and then have it get twisted. And there's nothing that I can do in the capacity of the public health administrator position other than offer the same guidance that I have been offering since this started. And that is very frustrating to me as a nurse, but my hands are tied.
So my question is, if we put up plexiglass screens, is that an infringement on anybody? I mean, I realize mandating masks is an infringement on some people, but to have plexiglass screens, is that skin off anybody's nose?
That would go to the auditor because he is in charge of he's considered the commissioner of elections. So that would not be a public health issue. It goes to Scott and his department, since they're in charge of the electoral process. I'm not trying to play pass the buck. I'm just saying that that's not under my umbrella as far as public health goes. And I used this analogy the other day, and I've said it several times. If we were to try to pass these things right now, if we were to try to pass no shoes, no shirt, no service, a non-smoking policy, and a seatbelt law, none of those things would pass in today's society because we are so divided. None of those things would pass. I mean, I've been a nurse for a long time. I've been your public health administrator for 13 years. I've been through H1N1, and I have never seen such a divide over doing the greater good and the right thing for the majority of people. So it's a good thing I'm not new, because I would have already quit and cried under my desk numerous times. But I understand everyone's concern. I understand people need to get out and vote. I went and voted Friday morning at, like, I don't know, 8:30, 9:15. And I think there was like one other person in the booth. So people are going to have to try to get out at different times and vote. I know you're still going to have those folks that want to go the day of the election. I'm not all about that. I'll go. I've already made up my mind. I've already voted and it's done. But there's some people that are never going to vote absentee, and I can't control that either. Mitigating human behavior is above my pay grade. So I don't know. I don't know. So that question goes to Scott as far as the plexiglass goes. But then on election day, you're going to have, my concern is you're going to have a lot of people in and out of school buildings. So again, it's not an easy fix. It's not an easy thing to try to mitigate. Because
my other question is, will Scott be available next Monday at that meeting, or will he be absent again?
Scott can be available if we ask him to come in and join the meeting, be a part of it.
Would that be likely to happen? It seems like that, since it's his bailiwick, it might be a good idea.
We can certainly ask him.
Yes.
Well, if I may, I want to just thank you, Chris, for all the work you're doing. I saw you were doing contact tracing on the 20 new cases last week, and I can only imagine what kind of nightmare that must be with hundreds and hundreds of people to contact. So I really appreciate you doing that work.
Thank you very much. We have a
Emily,
great
I know you've had your hand up a couple of times.
Well, Chris, it's okay. Chris.
Sorry, I had one more thing. I was hoping we could discuss, what can be done. I understand there are certain things that cannot be done, but there are things like signs, having masks available, having sanitizers, things. There's a lot of things that can be done that may not necessarily require any one person or any one office or any one board to be, the mandating board. So instead of passing the buck on to the auditor's office, can the Board of Supervisors say, well, we think it's a good idea to have masks there, to have signs, to have a strong encouragement, have the person at the desk wear a mask, so that the auditor is not left with being the one that's on the hook for the decision? Can it be a more global?
Yeah, the auditor though is the commissioner of elections, and the elections all fall under his auspices. So it would have to be their office that takes care of that. I don't believe the Board of Supervisors can step forward and say something that doesn't coincide with what their office has in place. Now, Emily, you've had your hand up a couple of times.
I was just wondering, one quick way that could be done perhaps now is, could we have one location for people who don't care to wear masks and another location for people who do? That, so
yeah,
there's no problem with voters not, I feel uncomfortable to go and vote. And that's really an awful situation to be in. You know, one person's personal choice could basically get me extremely sick or worse. And so my personal choice is being violated when their personal choice is different. So we're talking about really serious things now. It's not, you know, this is not a small thing. Is it a person's personal choice to drive drunk? I mean, I just think, can we take the bull by the horns here, even though it's being, you know, the governor is, first of all, is saying wear masks, you know, distance. Why can't we do that here? Other counties are.
There's only one other county in the state, and their county has only done it as a resolution that's connected to a city that had done this. There are several cities that have put that resolution forward. The way that the county did it was to, once the city of Iowa City had created an ordinance that was based off of a public health department decision, they adopted it through a resolution. They didn't actually do an ordinance themselves. And again, that's only one county out of 99 that did that. So I'm not sure that we're in that same position, because we haven't had a determination from the Board of Health as far as whether we can put a mask ordinance in place. So there's a lot of different things going on here when it comes to what you've heard with other cities being able to put in a mask ordinance and other locations. Counties, again, it's only been just one county here in the state that has done that. Private businesses such as Walmart or Hy-Vee had initially said that they were going to do some mask requirements, but they have since taken that back. They don't have a mask requirement here in Fairfield at either location. They've also taken down all of their one-way directional aisle arrows in both locations to allow people to move around like that. I know that everybody still has their mask requirement in place, but again, they're a private business and they're allowed to do that on their own. So I think that we need to have some more research done by our county attorney's office, and they'll have something prepared for us for our next meeting, at which time we can discuss it then.
And if we get that sooner, we'll send that out. But we are working on it. I appreciate your comments. And as you can understand, there's no simple solution here. So we're just trying to do our due diligence, and we will be getting something out. And we appreciate your comments.
Yes, thank you for joining us for the public comment portion of our meeting today. We're going to now move on to allow claims and approve reports. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I have one other comment from our county engineer, or county attorney, sorry. No, they don't.
I apologize. I was in district court, and I think I missed the first part of this meeting and this discussion. And I know there's a lot of emotion attached to this issue, but we talk a lot about fundamental rights in this country, and the right to vote is just about as fundamental as they come. And that right shall not be infringed, period. Can't do it. We can't pass an ordinance or a resolution saying that you can only, you can vote, but you can't do it if you're wearing flip-flops, or because that's a hazard. You can vote, but only if you're wearing a hard hat. Couldn't have that resolution. If somebody comes in and they want to express their political voice, and we have to accommodate them. And I know that that's it's a difficult square to circle, because clearly it's in the best interest of the community to take all steps possible to mitigate the spread of this disease. There are alternatives. We have mail-in voting. mail-in voting works. I know it's gotten a lot of flack and a lot of chaff in the air about whether or not mail-in voting is under threat. I am assured by the auditor's office that mail-in ballots count. Mail-in ballots count. If there is a grave concern about physical proximity to others, that's why we have mail-in balloting. We can't block individuals from exercising their right to take part in our democracy, period. That's why a mask mandate in the courthouse would work for certain circumstances, right? If the Board of Supervisors wanted to issue a mandate that all people coming into the courthouse to do court business needed to wear a mask, that passes constitutional muster. But if you wanted to block somebody from trying to exercise their right to vote, that is not within the constitutional purview of this body. So that's where we are, and I understand there's a lot of heat associated with this, but we just can't be we can't have local government stepping in between a citizen's desire to exercise their vote and that ability to vote. We can't do it, and it's unfortunate in this time, but that is where we are. So, thank you.
I think
All right, thank you.
question is how to create a track where both sides are accommodated. That's entirely possible.
All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to now move on to allow claims and approve reports. I have a motion from Dimmitt and a second from Sandquist to approve the claims and reports. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do we have any nuisance properties that we need to discuss at this point?
Well, I'll bring you up to date, and I'm sure Pat's on top of all this. So we've served 5 individuals, well, 4.5. One individual that was served has not picked up the letter. We're waiting for process to come back to us so that we have an official notice that they've not picked it up. We'll then serve that notice via the sheriff. One of the 5, which is located in Abington, we placed on hold due to illness of the individual. And the Harriman property out west of town is now back in Harriman's hands. They, according to what Mark told me, because they had not recorded it yet, he was able to redeem it. And so he indeed did redeem it. So we are going to now pursue Nathan Harriman and that property. So this week he'll be served. And also have, which I submitted to Bruce, 4 names of folks that would be interested in bidding on cleaning up those properties if it comes to that. So, and I was just as recently as Thursday by the Lawson property. There's no movement on that. That's the one on Indigo. So, unless Pat, I don't know if you've got anything to.
Is that cleaning up anything we need to bid?
What do you mean?
Let a bid on it, or just have these, like, publicize it?
That's up to you guys. I mean, we've talked about that as a way, particularly if you have a number of interested people getting, sort of the most bang for your buck. But I don't think it's going to be a really high number that's going to have a statutory requirement for
Okay.
for a bid letting.
Correct.
Up to you.
Well, and one of the individuals that I've spoken to, who was the one who did the project, and I understand this, they would take each project on its own, look at it individually, see A, if it's something they can do, and B, something they want to do. And so that's why the 4 options and none of them may work out. We may have to go in a different direction, but that was the reason. And I submitted all those names and phone numbers to Bruce, so he has those as well. And I do know one of the contractors, or whatever you want to call them, mentioned to me about, yeah, he'd be happy to do it, but he would want the sheriff with him. Well, we would make arrangements in certain circumstances that we had a deputy present, just because, and I understand the concern there.
Okay, we have a work session coming up on Wednesday, October 14th at 11 a.m. With our representatives from ICAP, our insurance company, here to go over review some of our coverages. So do we have any other business before the Board of Supervisors to hear today? All right, hearing no other business before the supervisors, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Thank you, everybody, for joining our meeting today.